My sister married the future King of England, and the whole world wept for her. I was promised to the heir of all Russia, and he died with my hand in his. They say that with his last breath, he gave me to his younger brother. So I married the brother, a man nobody had ever chosen for me, and for 28 years I was the happiest woman in Europe. Do not envy me. Of the two of us, I am the one who lost everything. My name is Dagmar. In Russia, they called me Maria Feodorovna, Empress of all the Russias. But I was born a Danish girl in a plain yellow house, and I never truly stopped being her. Before I am finished, I will show you 2 marriages held up side by side, like 2 portraits on the same wall. One was a betrayal that lasted 40 years and could not be broken. One was a love so complete that when it ended, there was nothing left of me to save. And I will answer the question I turned over for the rest of my long life. My sister was pitied for her marriage, and I was envied for mine. So how did I end with empty hands, and she with everything? Let me take you back to where there were only the 2 of us. Part 1. 2 sisters, 1 small palace. We were born 3 years apart in Copenhagen, in the Yellow Palace on Amalia Gade, Alexandra I in 1844, and then me in 1847. I should be honest, the way people never are about childhoods like ours. We were not poor, but we were royal only in the way a good name is royal when the purse behind it is thin. Our father was a prince on a soldier's income before he was ever a king. We shared a bedroom under the roof. We learned to sew, to keep our own rooms, to sit up straight and want very little out loud. And we had each other, which was the whole of our wealth. Alexandra and I were so alike in the face that even our own family confused us. The same dark hair, the same long neck, the same still smile that gave away nothing. Strangers took us for twins. We were not twins. She was the elder, the gentle one, the one everybody loved on sight. I was the one with the sharper tongue and the harder eye, and I have never once pretended otherwise. We knew, both of us, from the time we were small, that we were being raised for export. Our mother said it plainly. You belong to Denmark, but you will not stay here. We were dresses being fitted for a stage we could not yet see, and when the fitting was finished, they would send us out, one at a time, to the men who needed us. Alexandra went first. Part 2. The sister who left, and the dead man who chose me. In 1863, my sister hailed to England to marry Albert Edward, the Prince of Wales, the man they would one day crown Edward VII. The whole of London wept and cheered for her, and I stood on the quay at Copenhagen and wept too, because I was losing the other half of myself, and because even then, even young, the rumors had already crossed the water to us. We knew about him. We knew the Prince of Wales kept the company of actresses, that there had been a girl named Nellie Clifton before the ink on his engagement was dry. I watched my beautiful, gentle sister sail off to a man the whole world envied her, and I understood, in my stomach, that she was sailing into a lifetime of sharing him. I was 16. I promised myself, privately, fiercely, that I would never be the pitied one. God has a cruel sense of humor about the promises girls make. My own future arrived gilded. I was betrothed to Nicholas Alexandrovich, Nixa, everyone called him, the eldest son of the Tsar of Russia, the heir to the largest empire on earth. He was clever and kind and genuinely fond of me, and I of him. For once, the arrangement and the heart agreed. I was to be the future Empress of Russia, and I was, I confess it, quietly triumphant. My sister had the pity. I would have the glory. I let myself imagine all of it. The winters in St. Petersburg, the golden cathedrals, the children Nixa and I would raise between two crowns. I wrote to Alexandra about him with something very close to gloating, and she, generous even then, wrote back only that she was glad one of us would be truly loved. I did not hear the sadness folded into that line. I was far too busy being fortunate. Then, in the spring of 1865, Nixa fell ill on the French coast, at Nice, and did not recover. I rushed south to a villa full of doctors and hush. He was 21. His younger brother Alexander was there at the bedside, an enormous, awkward, grieving young man. And I was there, and Nixa lay dying between us. They say, and I have chosen all my life to believe it, because the alternative is unbearable, that in his last hours Nixa took my hand and placed it in his brother's, that he gave me away to Alexander with his own dying fingers, so that I would still be cared for, so that Russia would still have me. Whether it happened exactly so, or whether it is a story I built to make sense of the wreckage, I cannot tell you. I only know that I lost my golden future in that room and inherited a stranger. Part 3. The surprise of my life. I married Alexander in the winter of 1866, in the blaze of a St. Petersburg cathedral, and I gave up my name and my church for him. I became Maria Feodorovna. My sister could not even come. She was carrying her second child in England and too unwell to travel. So I walked into the coldest, grandest court in Europe without her, married to the brother of the man I had been promised, terrified that I had been handed a life as a consolation prize. And here is where our two portraits stop matching. Because Alexander, my substitute, my second choice, the man no one had picked for me, turned out to be the love of my life. He was a giant, a bear of a man who could bend a fire iron in his fists and did at parties to make the children laugh. He was blunt and shy and had no talent for charm at all, and he adored me. He never took a mistress. In an age when every crowned man in Europe kept a woman on the side, my own sister's husband kept a whole parade of them. My Sasha came home to me, only to me, for 28 years. Do you understand how rare that made me? I was the most envied wife on the continent, and for once, the envy was deserved. I want to tell you one thing about him, because it is the truest thing I know. In 1888, our imperial train derailed near a place called Borki. The roof of the dining car came down while we were all inside it. The children, myself, everyone, and Alexander, my enormous husband, braced himself under that collapsing roof and held it up on his own shoulders until every one of us had crawled out. He nearly died holding the weight. Some say he never fully recovered from it. That was the man I got by accident. That was the man the dying Nixa gave me. We filled the nurseries. My eldest was Nicholas, Nicky, a soft, sweet-natured boy with all of his father's gentleness and none of his size. Then came George and Xenia and Michael and my baby Olga. I lost one son, a little Alexander, before he had lived a full year, and I learned early what my sister already knew from her own dead infant, that a crown does not excuse a mother from standing over a very small coffin. And I will tell you a grief that came long before the world imagines my griefs began. In 1899, my second son, George, clever, quick, my favorite, though a mother is never meant to say so, died of tuberculosis in the thin air of the Caucasus Mountains, far from me. At 28 years old, I was still Empress then. I still had, as far as I could see, everything. And already, quietly, under the gold and the ceremony, the taking had begun. I simply did not yet recognize it for what it was, and so I carried a guilt I never spoke aloud. Every year, my sister wrote to me from England, and between the lines I read her loneliness, the actresses, the countesses, the woman called Keppel, who was always there, the humiliations she swallowed with that still smile of ours. The world pitied Alexandra and envied me, and in my heart, God forgive me, I agreed with the world. I thought I had simply been the luckier sister. I thought I had won. Part 4. The Crown, the Blood, and the Other Alexandra. Understand what kind of empire I had married into. In 1881, my father-in-law, Tsar Alexander II, was torn apart by a bomb thrown into the snow of a St. Petersburg street. We carried him back to the palace and he died in front of us, and in that single afternoon, my gentle giant became Tsar, and I became Empress. I put on the crown of Russia with the smell of blood still in the air. My sister, far away in England, had once had a boy fire a pistol at her and Bertie on a railway platform in Brussels and miss. We were Danish girls raised to sew straight seams, and violence had followed us both onto our thrones. For 13 years, I was Empress beside a husband who loved me, mother to a nursery of children, and I believed, truly believed, that I had escaped my sister's fate. We remained, she and I, closer than ever across our two empires. We wrote constantly. We holidayed together when we could, two women in their 40s who still finished each other's sentences and were still mistaken, from a distance, for one another. We shared, above all, one hatred: Prussia. The Germans had torn 2 provinces from our little Denmark in 1864, when we were girls, and neither of us ever forgave it, not for the rest of our lives. That old wound would come back for me in the worst way. But I did not know that yet. In 1894, at our palace at Livadia, on the warm Crimean coast, Alexander sickened. His kidneys were failing him, the great strong body that had held up a train giving way from the inside. He was 49. I sat with him as he died, and this time, no dying man could hand me to a brother to keep me safe. When Sasha went, the best of my life went with him, and I was a widow at 46. And do you know who came to me? Alexandra. My sister crossed Europe to sit with me in my grief, exactly as I had once wept for her on a Copenhagen quay. That is the thing about the two of us. We were always taking turns holding each other up. Then the crown passed to my son, and I must tell you honestly about my son. Nicholas was gentle and good and entirely unready. A soft-spoken boy handed the most dangerous throne on earth, and weeks after his father's death, before we had even finished mourning, he married. He married a German princess, Alex of Hesse, and when she converted, she took a Russian name, and the name she took was Alexandra. Think of the cruelty of that. My sister was Alexandra, the great love of my life. And now the young woman I blamed for pulling my grieving son away from me, the cold, shy, stubborn girl I could not warm to and did not try hard enough to, she was Alexandra too. I will own my part in it. I was the Dowager Empress, and by the old rules, I outranked my own daughter-in-law at every door and every dinner, and I used it. I enjoyed it. I was proud, and I was petty, and I did not make room for her. And the two of us, the two Alexandras of my life, could not have been more different. One the sister who saved me, one the daughter-in-law I helped to isolate. I have had many long years to be ashamed of that, and my coldness carried a price I never foresaw. The more I shut my daughter-in-law out of my world, the more she and Nicky closed in upon their own, bolting the doors, trusting no one but each other, and in time, the strange, holy men and healers she gathered around my sick little grandson. There was one in particular, a peasant mystic whose name became a curse spoken across all Russia. And I despised him, and I said so openly, and it changed nothing at all, because I had long since surrendered my place at my son's ear to the very woman I would not sit beside at dinner. I helped to build the loneliness that ruined them both. That is a hard sentence for a mother to speak, and I will speak it only once. Part 5. Everything taken, and the sister who came back. Now the mirror shatters, and I must tell you how the envied sister lost what the pitied one was spared. The war came in 1914. My old enemy, Prussia, grown into a German empire, marching at last. It broke Russia open. 3 years later, my son Nicholas gave up the throne, and the family that had ruled for 300 years was suddenly a collection of prisoners. I was moved south, to the Crimea, to a house by the sea, watched by men with rifles. An old woman who had once put on the crown with blood in the air, and now waited to see what the new blood would do. Those were strange, suspended months by the Crimean Sea. A handful of us Romanovs gathered in the white villas above the water, guarded, rationed, reading the newspapers for the fates of cousins and nephews, learning to tell which of our guards might one day shoot us and which might look away. I planted vegetables. I, who had been Empress of all the Russias, weeded a kitchen garden with my own hands and was grateful for it, because it gave those hands something to do that was not wringing themselves raw in the dark. In the summer of 1918, in a town far to the east whose name I have said aloud as few times as I could manage, my son Nicholas and his Alexandra and their 5 children were taken into a cellar, and they did not come out again. I did not believe it. I want you to hear me clearly, because this is the truest confession I have. I refused to believe my sons were dead. For the 10 years left to me, I would not wear full mourning for Nicky. I told anyone who would listen that he had escaped, that they were hidden somewhere in that enormous country, that a mother would feel it in her own body if her children had gone out of the world, and I felt no such thing, so it could not be true. Was it love? Was it courage? Or was it the plain cowardice of a woman who could not bear the one fact she was being asked to hold? All 3, I think. I have never been able to separate them. And as the white armies collapsed and the sea was my last road out, it was my sister who reached across the water for me one final time. Alexandra, the pitied one, the betrayed one, the sister I had privately thought myself luckier than for 50 years. Alexandra sent a British warship. In April of 1919, I went aboard HMS Marlborough in a Crimean harbor, and I would not leave until they promised to take the other refugees crowding the dock as well. I sailed away from Russia forever on a gray British ship my little sister had sent, because in the end she still had a country and a king who would answer her, and I had nothing left at all. I went to her first, in England. And then the 2 of us, 2 Danish widows now, went home, to Denmark, to a villa called Vidor by the sea that she and I had bought together years before, when our own father died. We had bought it as a place for 2 sisters to grow old in. Neither of us had imagined how completely we would need it. We were not always gentle with each other in those last years. Two proud old women in a shrinking house, both long accustomed to being obeyed, both grieving different dead across a silence too large to cross. We quarreled over small things, the way sisters do, because the enormous things could not be spoken of at all. But at night, when the servants had gone and the lamps were low, we were simply the two girls from the Yellow Palace again. Dark heads bent together, finishing each other's sentences the way we had before either of us had ever heard the name of a prince. And that was enough. In the end, it had always been enough. So, picture the end of it, if you will. A queen and an empress, born in a plain yellow house, raised to sew our own dresses and want very little, sitting together again by a cold northern sea. Both of us widows, both of us survivors of marriages the world had entirely misread. Alexandra had been given the betrayal that could not be broken. I had been given the love that could be taken away. And taken it was. All of it. My husband, my sons, my empire, my name. She died first, my sister, in 1925. And for my last 3 years, I was alone in that house by the water. The final one left of the two little girls under the roof of the Yellow Palace. I died there in 1928, an old Danish woman who had once been Empress of all the Russias. So let me answer it now. The question I began with. Why did I, the envied one, end with empty hands, while my pitied sister kept her crown, her country, her long, strange half-a-marriage to the end? Because I had made a child's mistake about what was worth envying. My sister's marriage endured everything precisely because it was never truly given to her heart. A duty cannot be broken because there is nothing tender in it to break. Mine was the rarer thing, the real thing, the whole of my heart handed to one faithful man and then to the children we made, and that is exactly why history could take it. Real love is the only thing worth losing, and the only thing that can be truly lost. I was not the luckier sister. I was the one who had more to lose and lost it. I would not trade 1 hour of it. That is the last truth, and the hardest. Given the whole of it again, the giant who held up the train, the sons, the throne, the cellar I would not believe in, the gray ship, the cold house at the end, I would choose every single hour of that love again, knowing exactly what it would cost me. My sister was pitied, and I was envied, and both the pity and the envy were wrong. She kept everything because she risked nothing. I lost everything because I dared to be happy. Only one of us truly lived, and only one of us truly grieved. We were, to the very end, the same girl split in two.